everybody, this is Amy at City's Edge Quilt Shop and Sewing Center in Warsaw, Missouri, and today we're going to talk about the January pre-cut block of the month. So first, what is a pre-cut block of the month? So City's Edge does a pre-cut block of the month in 5 different colorways where all of your pieces are completely cut out for you, and then you get a layout with instruction on how to put that block together. These pieces are cut on an AccuQuilt cutter, and the pieces go together like butter. So when you take 2 triangles like this and put them together, you will see everything matches up. They're already dog-eared for you and ready to sew. So there's a couple pointers I want to give to you regarding the pre-cut block of the month. But first, I want to show you the 5 different colorways that we have this year in 2025. We have Melissa Gilbert's by Riley Blake, Walk on the Prairie. We have Aboriginals from Australia by M&S Textiles. We have Red, White, and Blue, and this is with various fabrics. You can see we're doing tonals this year, and there will be a variation of tonals, but we are using this little star print as the background to be consistent in all the blocks. In addition, we have our Dragonfly Illusions. This is by Timeless Treasures. And then we have by Moda Sunshine and Blue Skies that we are doing. So 5 different colorways. The fabric line is what we're using in the whole year of blocks. So they will be different using different fabrics in each block. Now, these are sampler blocks, which means every block will be different. So none of them will be the same. They may be using different fabrics, but they will all be in their respective collections. So one of the things that we are keeping consistent this year, outside of staying within that color palette, the collection, is we are doing 2 different centers this year. So every other block that you receive will have this on point center. We chose to do larger center blocks this year because so many of our prints were so big that we really wanted to highlight those as a centerpiece in the blocks. So you'll get half your blocks on point, and half of them will have a 6-inch square and have a much larger, and you'll see that when we do February's block. So first things first, I want to give you a couple of tips for the block of the month. And one is having a really good 1/4 inch. These guys really want to have a very good 1/4 inch. So I'm going to show you by machine over here how to get a good 1/4 inch. Okay, so the first thing you want is to have your machine set up for that 1/4 inch. Now on this machine here, we have the capability to just go to our 1/4 inch and we're there. Many machines just have this palette that's right here, and it will have a 1/4 inch setting, and you will go to that mode and choose 1/4 inch. Some machines, smaller machines that might not be computerized, might just have a 1/4 inch foot, so it doesn't move. If your machine does zigzag and it's not a straight stitch only machine, then you have the capability of moving your needle, and that will help you with your placement for your 1/4 inch. So if you just like to use the edge of your foot for piecing, then you need to move your needle to a placement that's going to give you a good 1/4 inch. Or you have placements on your needle plate, and there's lines on your needle plate. Some people will put a piece of tape or have a guide that you can put there to help you put your fabric against and use. So if you had a 1/4 inch foot on, I got my walking foot on here, so I'm not going to put this one on there. But if I had this on here, I would just caution about your guide. You do not want to push fabric up on your guide, you want to just let the guide be a placement for your fabric, just to kind of glide right through. If you are pushing your fabric and you're kind of bending it like that, then you're losing your 1/4 inch. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're using a guide, that that's truly what it is. It's just easy walking foot, or your feed dogs feeding it through, just using that guide as a placement. Okay, so 2 things. If you have a 3mm, 5mm, 7mm, 9mm machine, that means your machine does do a zigzag. The center is going to be half of that. So if you have a 7mm machine and you have it on the center stitch, that's going to be at the 3.5 inch placement, unless you have moved it. Okay, this is a 9mm machine, so my placement is at 4.5. If I want to move my needle from the center, I would increase my width. That needle is moving. Do you see it kind of heading over that way? So if you have a 9mm machine, you have more increments to move over left or right than you do if you have a 3mm machine. Your increments might be just a little bit larger. So I have my 1/4 inch placement in my mode, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Lois likes to do a scant 1/4 inch, so she had it up to 8.5. And as I started this, your pre-cut block of the month want a true 1/4 inch. She uses a scant because she cuts things down. She does a lot of trim tooling and squaring of the blocks before she sets them. So I'm going to set it to where I know I have a good 1/4 inch. Now, one way to test that is to have 3 pieces of fabric that are 1.5 inches each and sew them together. And I like to have 2 contrasting pieces and a center. So once I sew them together, I come up with this little guy. Okay. So since they were all 1.5 and I took a 1/4 inch on each side, my center placement should be 1 inch. So if I put it up on that seam like that, this line should be at my 1 inch mark. And if it is, way to go. You've got a great 1/4 inch. If it's not, then you need to find your placement between your needle and your foot to find out where that good placement is. Now, another thing, when you are pressing, you need to have a good press. And what I mean by that, 2 things. So first, I would tell you that, especially if you're a beginner, don't use steam. Okay, use steam on completed blocks. Don't use it in between. But pressing, you press it, kind of set the seam, then you can flip it over and carefully press it. Okay, and that just helps you get a good seam. And what I mean by that is, let's say I didn't do that. I already I'm trying to make it be bad so I can show you. Because as a long arm quilter, we see a lot of things. So now I have a seam. Let me just grab that. Okay. So now I have a seam right here, and you'll see I can pull it. And you don't want that. You don't want to fold in your pressing. Okay, and because if you do, then you will not have a good 1/4 inch. So 2 things when you're checking your 1.5 pieced block, this little unit, make sure you have a good 1/4 inch, and then make sure you do not have wonky pressing. Okay, and then you can measure that, and if you have a good 1 inch, it should tell you right there. Another thing that I want to show you is when we do these each month and you get your sheet, I want you to pay attention to the values of the block. And we will talk about that each month. So what I'm looking at here is lights and darks when I'm talking about values. And so we have something that's really dark, we have some mediums, and then we have a light. Okay, so here's our light, here's our dark, and our medium. The value can drastically change the look of your block. And that's okay. It just might mean that you have a whole different block. So if you look at this one, what really, I guess, jumps out at me is this dark spin of this block. Where on this one, what really jumps out at me is the reds, and the look of these little funky triangles going around. So it's a whole different look and value that jumps out at you based on the lights and darks in your block. Okay, so let's go and let's construct the January block for you. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have our pre-cut pieces that I'm putting out here. And when you get your pattern, you may not have the exact pattern colorway as your block, okay? But you can count pieces, you can look at the layouts and the size of the pieces, and it will pretty much make sense. So when I'm looking at this one, I'm using the Dragonfly Illusion. Okay. And partially because we don't have access to all of these fabrics. So it's hard for us to do that with every line, especially like the aboriginals and things like that. So I have my center block. I have my dark values. So this is sunshine and blue skies. Okay. I have 8 of these. I'm sorry, yeah, 8 of these. So you can see that and you can count them. I have 8 of those. I have 4 light blue, and you would count them. There they are. And then I have these larger outer pieces. So I have 2, I'm sorry, I have 4. I have 4 of the light value, and then I have 4 of the darker value. So you can lay out the pieces and look at them like that when you're looking at the pattern. Also, the instructions will tell you what you're going to make. So when we're looking at this one, it says you're going to make 1 of those blocks. Okay. And then it's going to say you're making 4 of these units. And then you're making 4 of these units. So that's how you would review the pattern and look at it. Now, in the future, starting in March, I'm going to start putting the number of pieces you should have in the bag. That way you can do a very quick count of, do I have 21 pieces in my bag? And if not, that's when you need to figure out what you're missing. And then give us a call so we can get it in the mail to you right away. But we hand count every single one of these, so it's we are human. We make some mistakes, but I want to make sure that you are able to get your blocks together. So please check those when you receive them in the mail, and get with us right away if anything is askew. So we're gonna look at this dragonfly block, and I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to start laying this guy out for you. So your first instruction says, let's put these guys on. Okay, let's take these 4 of these little dark squares, and we're going to put one on each side. Now I would first press this block, this center block, get the seam out of it. And then once I pressed it, I would fold it in half and find where the center is going in both directions. Okay, what that's going to help me do, because it's an on point block, I can line up the point of my little triangle to it. Now, this is the only one that really does not fit as cleanly and neat as the other pieces. See, there's a little overhang here on each side. You're going to put the edge of your small triangle, your point, and then you're going to sew your 1/4 inch going across. I would do these two sides first and then go back. You're going to press these open towards the small triangle. Okay, and then you're going to put these two on. And when you're done, you will have this guy. Okay, after you sew them all on. So when you put these two on and you go to lay out these two, you have these two on and you go to put these on, see how now they line up. And that's one way you'll know already if you have a good 1/4 inch, because everything should start lining up perfectly for your block. Okay, and then I should be able to put this on here and see that I have a 6.5 inch block. So there we go. So that is step 1. So step 2, try to stay in the same format that I have it laid out here, because I'm trying to make it accurate for your block there. So I have this right here, just like this, and it says make 4. All right, so I made 4. I pressed it to the dark side for each one. So now it's time to put these guys on. Let me move that over just a little bit. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing that you did when you did the center. You're going to have your center line, press it if you need to, if you've already kind of ironed it out, find out where your seam is, and then you can put these two on. And again, this should match, if you have a good 1/4 seam, on each end. And then I'm lining up my line. I'll do these two first, and then I will do these two. Again, pressing them outward. And you should pretty much line up right there on your point. All right. So once I have those attached, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to make this block right here. So I'm going to take, again, laying it out exactly like the picture. And I'm going to put right sides together, line them up, and sew a 1/4 inch down. When I do, I end up with this guy. And it says to make 4 of them. So here they are. And then we again will sew these two on first, lining it up with your line in the center. Okay, now these aren't sewn, so I am way off, but it should go, once these are pieced on, you should be able to go right up in there. So those ones on, again, folding it out, seam to the outer side. So these two on, seam to the outer side. And when you're all said and done, you have a pretty little block. with dragonflies. Hopefully you got one of those with the big dragonfly in the center, like this guy. All right. So, guys, this is all I have for you today for the January block of the month. Again, our 5 colorways. You can take a look at them here. Check out, make sure that you have all of your pieces. And hopefully this tutorial has helped you a little bit to get your January blocks together. I look forward to seeing you next month for February. It's going to be a little bit more difficult layout, but we will get you walk through it and it will be wonderful, I think, anyway. All right. Thank you for joining me, guys. We'll see you next month.